Every club.
Every day.
The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome back to the Daily Southampton, part of the Global Sports Podcast Network. It's done. The season is finished. We are here. We have a full Southampton team with us today. My name is Greg Elliott and I'm joined by my good friends and wonderful co-hosts. Zach, how you doing?
Yeah, mate, good. It's kind of weird. It's the end of the season, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a season.
Thank goodness it's the end.
And Oscar, how you feeling? You're right.
Yeah, not too bad. Thank God it's over.
Yeah. Look, we had a long day out in the sun at St Mary's. We announced Will Still as our manager on screens, and nothing else of note happened. Just end of the season party. No football was played. Don't worry about it. We move on.
How dare you talk down to the Loch Ness Drogba like that, mate? How dare you? Don't worry about the other goals. That doesn't matter. This entire season has been about the 5 minutes or so a game that we can enjoy, whether it be a Tool goal, a Ross Stewart goal. Those little moments of hope and joy are the things we need to look back on over this season, because that's the only thing we're going to have to try to remember. Don't worry about anything else.
There was a moment at 1-1 where one of the Arsenal defenders scuffed a clearance a bit. Wright was out of his box and Ross Stewart chased the ball down. I went, oh my God, we're going to win. And as always, it's just enough of that hope to ruin your day.
Always, mate. That's just how it is. That's being a Saints fan. But then we got another absolutely banging season in the Championship. We have got 6 derbies. We've got the Nathan Jones derby, a man who's, no matter what, every news article I see about him, at some point he mentions how much he hated being an arse. And that's great, because it's going to be a derby next year now that Charlton are confirmed coming up. Commiserations to the O's. You know, I feel really bad. One of my mates from university, big Orient fan, watched them play against City, and they did pretty well. Devastating to have them miss out. I know that you have a bit of an affinity for Charlton, Greg, because your dad played for them. Yep. But also, the fact of the matter is they are run by the pound-for-pound best manager in Europe.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have that derby. We're gonna have the Russell Martin derby, where we're gonna see if his type of football will work at Leicester for some reason. And also, the most important, the South Coast derby. And we've got this new upcoming English manager that I'm pretty sure is younger than me, which is devastating, because that means that I'm now older than managers, which is not okay. Just how can you not be buzzing for next season, mate? It's here. Will Still revolution.
Because I had to sit through the football for 90 minutes today.
Yeah, I know. It was right. It was okay until we subbed in all of what would have been considered our better players at the beginning of the season.
That just to touch back on that, Nathan, the ego of that man over the last week. You know.
The fact he says it's about the players. I'm like, have you talked about any of your players at this point? Like,
not lying down on the floor crying when I know Hasenhuttl did it, but it's slightly different. And then some interviews come out this week saying that his time at Southampton, you never will give him the chance, blah, blah, blah. I'm not the worst manager in Southampton history. Hey, you are more hated than all of the terrible ones we've had this season. That says enough what it needs to say.
Okay, so have a look. Think of like when Pellegrino was in charge. I barely remember any of the games. The only game I remember is that one game where Buffal scored against West Brom, because, like, you know, it was a very good goal. But, like, I know nothing about him. He was arguably, in my opinion, a worse manager because he got us playing absolutely awfully. We had to get saved by Sparky in the end. And yet, yeah, you're right. Nathan Jones did so much to have the fan base turn against him in such a little period of time. I'm actually impressed. Like, I'm impressed that the vitriol that we had for that man, like, that was the only thing that ever united the Southampton fan base. Was Twitter was a sea of Nathan Jones out.
I can't wait for an episode in the off season where we take a deep dive into who was worse for Saints, Harry Redknapp or Nathan Jones.
It's going to be Harry Redknapp, but still, Nathan Jones doesn't help himself, I think is my point.
But yeah. But look, there was football today.
There was.
Let's try and reel ourselves back in. I know that we're trying to move on from the season, but we saw some football. What did you think of the lineup?
Oscar, you go first, or otherwise I won't shut up.
It was interesting. I bumped into someone outside the stadium and they said, cool, interesting lineup. And I hadn't seen it and I checked it. And yeah, Wood and Taylor's still alive, apparently.
Yeah.
So, and actually did quite well, to be fair to him. As a left-sided centre-back in a 4.
Is
I think it was a 4. Couldn't quite work it out.
Is that like our third choice defence, do you think?
I think pretty much. And they actually did quite well.
Yeah, so I mean, we knew coming in that Harwood-Bellis and Bednarek were both out injured. And I stood at St Mary's at 11 o'clock this morning waiting for players to arrive to get the crucial breaking news information that Jack Stevens had injured his hand, so couldn't sign autographs, but was 50-50 as to whether he was going to be in enough pain to be able to play.
I think Alfie House said that he fractured his wrist yesterday in training, supposedly.
Yeah,
that's going to suck just before the off-season starts as well, right?
Yeah.
That's all of your plans. Any golf they want to play over the off-season, that's kind of it.
But yeah, so we were kind of left with at the back what we had, right? And that's what, Taylor and Woods, who did all right, to be fair.
Well, considering, we came up against Arsenal, bear in mind that a couple of games ago, we were just hoping any game wasn't a 3 or 4-0 drubbing. We got, we got beaten second in the league. I know that you weren't really happy about their second goal either. Their first goal, sloppy defending again. But in comparison to the defeats we have had this season, having our third choice defence only concede 2 goals against, again, the team that is second in the league, I'll take that as a win, especially considering there was not a lot left to play for at this point.
No, and I mean it there was a notable quality difference. Like Arsenal had plenty of chances. They had one off the crossbar, one that was about 3 yards offside from what I could see, but was forced into a save in a corner.
I thought the same.
And yeah, to be fair, I turned around at that point. I'm like, was that really not 3 yards offside? Like, are our defence that far behind the play? Surely not. But
their first goal actually came not long after that. It was still in the same, not the same play, but the same phase of play, I'd say.
Yeah, well, we were caught. Yeah, from what I remember, we were caught out of shape because we were defending the corner, and then they 1-2'd it around Robinson, who was somehow at left fullback instead of right wing, and then Ross Stewart was the last man that got beat to the ball for the cross. So it's just
it's indicative of our season, except again, like if it was properly indicative of our season, we'd have been 4-0 down by half time.
Yeah.
And then we'd have managed to keep the second half to 1, which we did.
Right. We showed a bit of character and we got in the game and we had some, I don't know if you'd call them chances. We had some bits of I mean, the BBC football graph is going to be much less embarrassing than the City game.
Yeah, we had them camped in their half for quite a long time. Didn't do anything, but we had them camped there.
Yeah. Suleimana put himself truly in the shop window with some incredible skills, and
it was a bit, I'm not going to lie, it was a bit kind of, if the entire point of this lineup, so I think I saw before, this is the idea of, this is a lineup of potentially what we've got next season, right? And I'm not going to lie, one of the things that Greg didn't mention, which I've mentioned to Oscar and Greg already, is the line-by-line Daily Echo style live updates I got from Greg about all of the players arriving and which ones came and said hello and which ones were really nice and which ones basically ignored everybody, and how Kaya Sander walked to the stadium, didn't even arrive in a car. It just rocked up.
Literally,
which I'd expect from me.
Walked down the road and then just walked past the fans and started signing autographs. It was peak. It was so good.
So, but obviously, when at one point he pointed out Charlie Taylor, I'm pretty sure the last episode we talked about him and we talked about how we sure he's even at the club still. So It was very surprising to get him to see a start. Like Robinson getting a start was really good as well. You had James Moore on the bench really as well. Yeah, and I think it's I don't think we should be as worried about next season as I think people have been, and I understand why after this season, and I understand how pessimistic it's been. We've been here. We've been paying more attention than most people, I can promise you.
Yeah.
But, the announcement of the new manager today was important. I think that I look forward to what's next. I also really look forward to whatever new kits we're going to get, because they're really struggling to sell that yellow one.
Right, well, before we get Zach off on another tangent about kits, I'm going to take a chance to take a message from our partner at Bionic.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bionic, the world's most personalised supplements. Bionic provide 100% tailor-made supplements, designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN 2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bionic. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Okay, and we are back. So yes, hideous highlighter yellow shirts aside, there was more football. And look, at the risk of sounding like a stuck record from the entire season,
Why change the habit of a lifetime, mate?
the difference in the second half was apparent when, they brought on Saka and Odegaard, and we were able to bring on Will Smallbone, who to his credit, got stuck in and, tried to make himself a bit of a presence. And
I haven't seen the goal back. He's getting a lot of grief for it. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
losing his man pretty much straight after coming on. But again,
I could see it. I could see it from where I was sat, and I'm like, oh no, Odegaard's picked up the ball. Well, don't let him shift onto his left. Oh, he shifted onto his left. Get in the way. No, don't give him more space to shoot. No, that was obvious.
Especially after the fact that it was after a soft free kick, and the soft free kick was then he played advantage and then gave it, and then let them take it 10 metres away from where it was. In the grand scheme of things, it makes no difference whether it was that. But if you're going to play the rule, the ref was a really odd today, just really nitty and not a fan.
That is somebody that is already on holiday and never gives home field advantage because he doesn't care, right?
I didn't recognise the ref, and I haven't looked up who it was, but I suspect that he's one of the ones.
I said that I actually turned to who I was with at the time and said, "This is really they're starting to unleash the cannons now." I think their subs were Saka. You said about Trossard, Odegaard, Havertz. Champions
Lewis
League winner. Lewis Skelly. That is 5 players that
we bought
every single one of them.
We bought on Paul Onachu, who continues to be treated like a competition winner at St Mary's, which is just fantastic.
We had a few stepovers. I enjoyed them.
Yeah, Cameron Archer, Will Smallbone, and promoted from our under-21s, Kaya Sander. So
I very much enjoyed the big ball that went about 30 yards in the air and as he went to try and win a header. And actually finally won a header. That might be the first header I've ever seen him win.
I liked the one where it missed his head and he accidentally chested it and nearly got it down and out of his feet. I just consistently makes me laugh every time.
You are right, though. It's exactly when you compare the substitutions we've made, right? We had Archer come on, Kaya Sander, Will Smallbone, Paul Onachu. They bring in Lewis Skelly, Trossard, Havertz, Odegaard, Saka. Come on! It's like all I can say to Sunderland is good luck next season, guys.
Yeah, and put that in context, Saka came on and was attacking our youth prospect Robinson and Sugawara, who is
I'm glad
not
he got
a
a game.
player.
I'm glad he got a game though, Greg. I'm not going to lie.
I think he played all right. I like Yuki. I don't think he's a very good fullback. I think he's a fine winger.
I think the suit was still quite well. The system
he presses high, he runs.
Should we say a word on departing players? Obviously Bednarek, and we don't know whether he's staying. Kyle Walker-Peters was there with his really bad virus that he had, despite the fact he was allowed to sit with. If you've got a really bad virus, to me, it's kind of wild you would set your contagious virus-ridden player amongst all of his other players when, I know that it's the end of the season, but...
I think he was recovering, right? It was more that he missed out on training than that he was like a
I know. I'm being pedantic. I think it's more that I'm upset we kind of didn't get a last proper game for him. Same with Lallana, who's clearly going to retire at the end of the season.
Yeah.
When Ugochukwu came off to be replaced, that's probably the last time we'll see him in a Saints shirt. He's going to go back to Chelsea and then
innovation.
Inevitably go on loan to probably some French side. There's quite a few that we potentially...
Tyler Dibling conspicuous by his absence. Do we know why he wasn't even on the bench?
I think it was like a muscular injury or something. Yeah, so it was injury. It wasn't just that he didn't want to play.
The quote I read from Alfie House was muscle tightness.
Okay.
Apparently, which I think is the official term.
That sounds like the sort of thing that you would say if you didn't want to play. Although he's got the England under-20s coming up. that he might be saving himself for, right? If we're trying to look at it from both sides of the coin.
I think either way, we're going to end up with a team next season that can do all right in the Championship. And if we do what the plan for the club is, because you can see from Will Steele's announcement and conversation about getting us back to the Premier League, that clearly is the goal. That hopefully next time around, we're going to be, if we do it, because, Sheffield United have taught us that it isn't that easy, because we're now going to get a Ben Brereton Diaz back who played all of 5 minutes of that final before he went off injured. So, it's going to be an interesting...
Just going to need someone to keep our medical team busy now that Ross Stewart's back to full fitness.
Well, yeah, but then
that's
one of the other things we haven't massively talked about is that we had a striker today on the pitch. We had 2 strikers every single of our strikers who played today, Archer, Onuachu, and Stewart, have all scored goals. And bear in mind, at one point when we used to have old Shane Long on, there was about a year and a half where he just had never scored. So. As much as we talk about how we need, more...
if any of the players on the pitch that weren't Matty Fernandez had half the work rate of Shane Long, we probably wouldn't be in the position we're in this season.
Yeah, I'd agree.
You are also right, but again, this is the other thing you've talked about before, where Sulemana clearly put in the effort of his life today, and that's why he had to come off, because he looked absolutely run ragged. And when he went down, he was grabbing his hamstring. You could tell that he's tired, because and this is the thing, is that our players haven't been able to put in 90 minutes over the space of the season, and we also don't have the Champions League style squads that all of these bigger clubs have that are able to swap stuff out.
Is Sulemana has that Che Adams-like ability to suddenly turn into a world-class player when a transfer.
Crazy that, but yeah. I know
today. Yes, he did cause some problems. He could have caused a lot more. There was several times he got the ball, drove into that space, beat a player, then stopped, waited for him to cut. I know that's what he always does anyway. But yes, I thought he was okay, but he was frustrating today.
He gives up on us.
There were a couple of times where he should have just passed it across to Stuart.
Yeah, well, there's also a couple of times where if once he lost the ball, the third time of taking the man on, if he kept chasing at that point, he'd probably win it back. It's the most frustrating part of his game. And
so many margins like that all season, though, mate. There's so many times where, what if Taylor Harwood-Bellis didn't lose the ball? What if Flynn Downs didn't get a yellow card, so we needed to sub him off?
We'll talk more about the match, but first a message from our partners at Zencaster. Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform, and Zencaster came out the clear winner, with 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description and learn more about Zencaster. Okay, and we're back. So yeah, I guess it's going to be interesting to see how many of the team that started.
I had a question, and we spoke about it briefly. What on earth was going on with the Will Steele announcement? Why did they do it like that? It's such an easy telling. They announced it to an empty stadium, and then
I literally texted Greg, because Greg was like, "Mate, they've just announced it now," and I'm like, "It's 3 p.m." It's like, I'm pretty sure I'm the only person here.
I didn't even know. I didn't know. I looked at Twitter and said, "Oh, he's been announced. Okay, I guess they'll do something at half time."
We were based in the family zone initially, and and the kids run around and playing their games or whatever. And it's like, oh, the stadium's open, and it was too noisy in the family zone, and I was trying to watch the F1. So we walked. It's the honest answer. So we walked around and went into the stadium at opening time. I was sat there watching the F1 and just see Southampton's proud to announce that Will Steele is our manager for next season. I'm like, what?
I just don't understand. That, surely, as like a PR, that really does give me questions about some of the people upstairs and if they know what they're doing. Why wouldn't you? That is going to, even if you do it, I understand maybe thinking, well, we could be 6-0 down by half time, so maybe we shouldn't do it then. Do it just before kickoff. Yeah. All right, was it going to distract the team a little? Maybe, but it's going to give everyone a massive boost.
Yeah.
If we're 5-0 down at half time, bring him out anyway. I find it baffling baffling. It would have been the perfect moment. Like, we are usually so good for PR stuff. And then even you text me, Greg, that like you sent me the picture that's like, everything is still and calm at St Mary's. You're like, oh, shut up, guys. Like, come on. Do better. I said to Greg, they should have given out Gordon Strachan hats to every single person again, like we had all those years back when we were in that final. That's what they should have done, and let everyone go, well, this is weird, and then they'll figure out why. You're right, just anything other than what they did.
Just sat there at half time, like, all right, they'll probably bring Will Still out to talk to him, and they did the big crossbar challenge. I'm like, all right, yeah, someone won a cruise.
I was doing exactly the same thing.
Big positive vibes. It's like, oh, all right, they're going to do exactly the same thing at half time as they did before the game, which they did in the fan zone and also streamed to the stadium, which was the boxing face-off. And I'm like, all right, well, maybe they'll just bring him out after that. That's fine. That's probably like a pre-arranged thing to like advertise the fight. It makes sense. It's like, right, let's welcome the players out for the second half. Look, what?
Yeah, I don't get it. Even just bring him out for 2 seconds, little scarf, red and white scarf around his neck, chuck him right to the club shop. 5 minutes.
Up. Yeah.
that was all they needed to do, and instead we've now got some terrible photos of him sat in the stands of Spurs, and where he's kind of sat there clearly trying to concentrate on the game. In the background, you've got ex-Prime Minister Rishi Sunak sat there like, "All right, guys," and you're like, "Oh no."
Please don't take leadership advice from the people around you. Like,
oh mate, yeah, no, I'm fully with you. Fully with you, mate.
Yeah, it was truly baffling. But yeah, like literally, I heard the announcement, I saw it on the screen. They did they read basically verbatim Zach's research from a couple of weeks ago, and I looked around me and I'm like, "There's no one here."
Yeah. I genuinely, I didn't know. I was thinking, right, they're going to do some sort of announcement or something, and then I was like, they've already announced it on Twitter. I was like, what? And I looked, and I was like, I didn't even know. I bet that 90% of people probably didn't realise until we'd left. Like, they didn't even mention it. Just bizarre. And I'd love to know if there was actually a reason they didn't, because I can't think of one for the life of me.
Unless it's like, I prefer to not have the limelight. Maybe they did have some like smokes and daggers and fireworks and everything like that, and he was just
we
like,
just don't want to taint his name with this team. Like, he's not associated with the football that came before. It's a fresh start and a new season. Don't worry about the dross we just served up in the Premier League. It's the Championship now. We like the Championship. We've got a new manager, Will Still. That's it. This is all eyes forward.
What's been quite exciting is we've been linked with the manager for a long time. Enough for me to do research on him. We've all had a look. We've all thought this was pretty cool. And then we've turned around. It turns out he's actually been appointed manager. It's not some really random guy out of nowhere. It's somebody they've actually sat back and done research on. It's not a guy they've picked out of the phone book, rung up and been like, "You're free for a job." It's somebody they clearly targeted and wanted.
Just because they listen to our podcasts and make their decisions based off that. It's just because we established that it might be the most promising outlook of the lot, and then that was it. They saw that short and thought, that's obviously the guy for me. These guys know what they're talking about.
Obviously. Well, I am the one that did the best profile of Spores and the only profile of Spores, considering that most of the information I had to get off LinkedIn, because that man is a digital footprint that was basically non-existent. But yeah, it's nuts. And like the only thing that I was a little bit disappointed with is the BBC Sport put out a tweet that looked like it was Football Manager. So when you get an announcement on Football Manager, you've got like the background, and then they'll have like the superimposed club picture, and then it will be like in little text box, and they tried to make it look like that, and I'm like, oh no, they're already doing the Football Manager, and I'm like, mate, this guy lives and breathes football, leave him alone. Right, I'm very defensive already. He hasn't even played a game yet or been in charge.
As someone who only has a like mainstream understanding of Football Manager, all I know about Football Manager is that people take easily to the Champions League. So if he's the Football Manager, and that means in 5 years' time we'll win a Champions League, he can be the Football Manager all he wants.
What actually happens, Greg, is you start to develop weird affinities for teams that you've never cared about previously. For example, with me in Nagoya Grampus, and then you spend 3 hours on a Saturday afternoon after you come back from town trying to find a shirt that one is in your size and two ships to the UK for something under £300. So on top of the like couple of 1,000-hour addiction that I've had since I started playing in 2012, so
right.
does a lot of things to your brain, mate.
You should have had a chat got Greg to have a chat with Yuki. He could have gone back and grabbed you one during the holidays.
Unfortunately, he didn't come all the way down to our end. It was a disaster. The three players my kids particularly wanted the autographs of, none of them came and signed shirts. They wanted Ramsdale, Walker Peters, and Cameron Archer, and none of those showed up. So
it's all right. What did your daughter say about Lallana?
It was a beautiful moment. They had he was the first one there by a long shot, as you'd expect from a consummate professional like Lallana. And he came down and he had the time of day for everyone. He was chatting away and he signed everyone's shirts, and they got a wonderful photo of them all smiling. Great. And she turns around to me and goes, "Which player was that?"
Not a player, that's the assistant manager.
What money am I wasting on your season ticket? She was like...
I was in Primark at the time and I audibly laughed. My brother turned to me and was like, "You're right." I'm like, "Yeah, don't worry, funny football thing happened."
It was a great morning, and I just want to give a huge shout out to the bloke stood next to me who, full chest, as Matty Fernandez came down signing autographs, went, "See you next season then."
Fair play.
Please, we'll have a whip round, like whatever it takes.
That was actually quite a nice moment, and I was really curious to know what was going to happen in the lap of honour, appreciation, whatever it was. And they sort of got a few claps, came around to Northam, some boos started going. I was like, "Oh, here we go." And then everyone started chanting for Matty Fernandez, and only Matty Fernandez. Awkwardly started clapping, and everyone else was sort of like looking at him like, "Oh, cheers for that, mate." But fair play. He's the only one that deserves. Actually, Ramsdale as well. But
I think they did the bet. Yeah, but he got his plaudits from the Arsenal fans, so
exactly.
we couldn't give him that as well. I think they did the best they could with the lap of whatever you want to call it, the end of season lap.
It's a really tricky one.
They did it, but they didn't make as much of pomp and circumstance as they normally do about it, and quite rightly so.
Greg, one last thing. Can we mention the circle of enforcers in the middle of the pitch to make sure that none of us got in the middle?
What were they reporting as well? Like, why the middle? None of the players were even in there.
What possibly can happen? Are we going to take the middle of the pitch? Is that what we're planning to do? We're trying to run directly to the middle. It was so weird. Is it trying to be intimidating? Unless you got guys in riot gear that are literally blocking off the entire thing. I just feel like that was the most unintimidating thing I've ever seen. Everyone wanted to get on the pitch because they were so annoyed about being told they can't at this point.
Yeah.
Look,
oh god, that was funny.
I've got a really good relationship with the stewards in the area where I sit, mostly because I give them a hard time, and sometimes rightly so. But it was very serious action stations. It's like, right, it's stoppage time. You're not in the gap. Move across properly. Stand up. There's 1 minute left. You've got to stand up, and then they all sprinted on the pitch, and I think we all looked at each other like, "What are they doing?"
And the Arsenal fans, everyone said, "What on earth was that?"
Yeah,
what is happening? Too much swearing.
Look, I get it. I understand that last season we did that. We had a reason to.
There is a substantial difference between a playoff semi-final win where the emotions of what can only be described of a week of emotional build-up throughout the entire city, like coming to a head and getting on the pitch, and losing to Arsenal after the other week we managed to scrape a 0-0 draw to get to be the second worst team in Premier League history.
Yeah.
Like, it's
just points to the direction again.
Nobody was vibing with a pitch invasion. No one was trying it. However, both sets of fans did very much poke the bear, because both sets of fans throughout the game started with Arsenal saying, "If Sterling scores, we're on the pitch." And then as soon as Toolpool came on, all of the Northern, that was it. If Toolpool scores, we're on the pitch. So, I mean, maybe they were just taking it literally.
Yeah, that is true. It just points to this. Some people that are making the decisions at this club at the moment that do not understand football.
I think 100% this is, we got a massive fine from the FA. We have been told 100%. We need to do something.
It's just even box. The FA have been like, "What are you going to do to prevent a pitch invasion?" I'm like, well, look,
Yeah, I agree with that.
And bear in mind, we had a pitch invader this season, because this was when I pointed out to Greg, mate, there's like no stewards here at the Chelsea game, and then the Chelsea game stopped for 10 minutes. A guy ran on the field, then obviously the game stopped for 10 minutes. They eventually got him and got rid of him. It restarted, Jadon Sancho scored, we lost 5-0, and for somehow Russell Martin blamed that on the pitch invasion the pitch invader that happened at 80 minutes in.
4-0.
So on top of us having a full pitch invasion, we have also had pitch invaders this season.
Yeah.
So
and look,
roundabouts,
I think, as I put it earlier in the evening to you guys, there have been points in this season where actually a lifetime ban felt like the easy way out.
Yeah, that is valid.
That's got to be said.
I think as well, you're right as well, what you said, and that it actually made me think, cool, wouldn't it be funny if someone did run on now that they've done all of this?
Yeah.
Just one person. And it wouldn't have been that difficult, to be honest.
No.
All the police around the centre circle for some reason.
Yeah.
It's so
God
great.
knows what they've got in there.
I want to know how much extra money they had to pay out to get this steward in for this game that we potentially might invade the pitch, because apparently...
But why the centre circle as well?
Yeah.
Well, were you not intimidated, Oscar? Did you not think they were going to come and fight you? Because if you jump on, they're ready to pounce on you for any corner. They fully... I don't know.
I'm just saying that if the stewards have that much energy to pounce on anyone jumping on the pitch, maybe they should have been in the first team.
Oh, Greg, kill me off, mate.
Right, well, look, that is it. That is the end of season 1 of our daily Southampton journey. We will be back. We have got lots and lots planned for the off-season, and we will definitely be sticking with it. But until then, as we look forward to a much better year in the Championship, thank you for listening to us. Thank you, Oscar. Thank you, Zach, for joining us through what could only be described as a painful season. But at least pain sells. The numbers are up. What can we say?
Mate, and on top of that, it's made it bearable, because the ability to come on to a podcast and scream for half an hour about how absolutely rubbish we've been means that I'm able to dump that out of my head other than being miserable for the next day.
No, you're right.
Because
It's real therapeutic. So thank you, everyone, for our group therapy session. We will definitely be back soon. Until then, bye.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.